Dr. Kim Jaiwo checked her suit one last time as the airlock opened. The red sky of Vega 9 greeted her, along with swirling dust clouds and jagged rock formations stretching to the horizon. She took a careful step onto the alien world, feeling the crunch of gravel beneath her boots. Oxygen levels stable. Temperature regulation functioning, she reported, more to calm her own nerves than to inform the crew. This was her first off-world diplomatic mission, and the weight of responsibility pressed on her shoulders. "Remember, Dr. Kim," Captain Lee Do-hyun's steady voice came through her helmet, "the Vazirith Confederacy represents 12 star systems. They expect complete deference from Earth." Jaiwo nodded, though no one could see her. "I understand, Captain. I've studied their customs extensively." Ahead loomed the Vazirith Embassy, a structure of twisted metal and dark glass that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Four tall guards waited at the entrance, their scaled skin shimmering in the dull sunlight. Each stood over 7 feet tall with multiple eye clusters that blinked independently of each other. "Human representative," the lead guard announced, voice clicking through a translator, "you will follow. You will not speak unless addressed. You will maintain 3 body lengths distance from any council member." Jaiwo bowed deeply, exactly 45 degrees as protocol demanded. "I am honored by your welcome." The interior of the embassy was surprisingly warm, filled with strange vegetation and flowing water features. Jaiwo followed her escort through winding corridors until they reached a vast chamber where 5 Vazirith officials waited on elevated platforms. "The human scientist may approach," announced one, wearing elaborate metal ornamentation that Jaiwo recognized as denoting political rank. For 3 hours, they discussed potential trade agreements. The Vazirith were interested in Earth's agricultural techniques, offering mineral rights and technology in exchange. Jaiwo answered their questions carefully, aware that a single misstep could end negotiations. "We would like to show you our research facilities," said Director Mach, the smallest of the Vazirith but clearly the most senior scientist. "Your reputation as a xenobiologist precedes you." The research wing was impressive, gleaming equipment and specimens from across the galaxy. But as they moved deeper into the facility, Jaiwo noticed troubling details. Containment seals that didn't match their labeled contents. Security measures that exceeded scientific needs. Staff that watched her too carefully. "What is this section?" she asked casually, pointing to a sealed door marked with symbols she didn't recognize. "Agricultural development only," Director Mach replied too quickly. "Not relevant to our discussions." Later, when her escorts were distracted by an equipment malfunction, Jaiwo slipped a small sampling device from her pocket. She pressed it against an air vent near the mysterious section, watching as it collected particulates for analysis. Back in her quarters that evening, she connected the sampler to her portable lab station. Computer, analyze composition of collected samples. The results made her blood run cold. Genetic markers for weaponized pathogens. Evidence of splicing techniques specifically banned under the Orion Treaties. The Vazirith weren't developing agricultural solutions, they were creating biological weapons that could target specific species. Jaiwo's hands trembled as she documented her findings, encrypting the data and preparing it for transmission to Earth. Computer, establish secure channel to Captain Do-hyun. Before she could complete the transmission, her door slid open. 6 Vazirith security officers entered, weapons drawn. Behind them stood Director Mach, upper eye clusters narrowed in anger. "Human spy," Mach hissed, mandibles clicking rapidly. "You have violated sovereign territory and security protocols." "I'm a diplomatic representative," Jaiwo protested, backing away. "I have immunity under galactic law." "You have nothing," Mach replied. "Your primitive species has no standing here." The guards seized her equipment and dragged her away. For 3 days, Earth's diplomatic channels burned with urgent messages. Other species offered to mediate. The Vazirith ignored them all. On the 4th day, they brought Jaiwo to a public square. Thousands of Vazirith gathered to watch. Millions more viewed through transmitted feeds across the galaxy. High Commander Park, Supreme Leader of the Vazirith Confederacy, addressed the crowd. "Today we demonstrate the price of espionage against our people. Let all species witness the consequences of disrespect. Jaiwo stood tall despite her fear. She looked directly into the recording devices, knowing her final moments would be seen on Earth. I regret nothing, she said clearly. The truth matters. The execution was quick but public. The Vazirith made certain every detail was visible to all watching species. Commander Park's final words echoed across all galactic channels. Let this serve as a warning to Earth and other lesser species. The Confederacy will not tolerate espionage or interference. Know your place in the galactic order. As the transmission ended, the Vazirith leadership congratulated themselves. They had eliminated a threat and put the upstart humans in their place. Surely Earth would retreat now, understanding its vulnerability. They didn't understand humans at all. The United Earth Council chamber fell silent as the holographic display shut off. 50 of Earth's most powerful leaders sat motionless, the image of Dr. Kim's execution burned into their minds. Some wiped away tears. Others stared blankly ahead. A few shook with rage. President Choi Min rose from her seat at the center of the circular table. Though small in stature, her presence commanded attention. The room grew even quieter. They've killed one of our own, she said, her voice barely above a whisper yet carrying to every corner of the room. General Yang Tae, head of Earth's defense forces, slammed his fist against the polished oak table. The sound echoed like a gunshot. We must show military force. We cannot let this stand. His face had turned deep red, veins visible on his neck. We prepare our fleet immediately. With what? Ambassador Kong Jin asked, spreading his hands. Our fleet is a fraction of theirs. The Vazirith have warships that could destroy our orbital defenses in hours. We have 14 deep space vessels. They have thousands. The ambassador is correct, said Admiral Bay. A direct confrontation would be suicide. General Yang wouldn't back down. So we do nothing? Show the galaxy that humans can be killed without consequence? I would rather die fighting. No one said anything about doing nothing, said a quiet voice from the far end of the table. All heads turned to Director Son Ha of Earth Intelligence. She rarely spoke at council meetings, preferring to observe. When she did speak, everyone listened. We have other resources, she continued, walking slowly to the center of the room. We have been gathering information for decades. She placed a small device on the table. It projected a complex web of connections, spanning outward like a spider's work. This is the quiet network, Director Song explained. Since our first contact with alien species 30 years ago, we have been systematically collecting data. Banking records. Political secrets. Military capabilities. Trade routes. Personal vices of leaders. President Choi studied the display carefully. How extensive is this network? Complete. Director Song's single word hung in the air. Every major species. Every significant world. Every powerful individual. We know things they don't know we know. Ambassador Khan looked stunned. How is this possible? We're newcomers to the galactic community. Director Song almost smiled. Because we are newcomers. Because they think we are primitive. Because they talk freely in front of our people, seeing us as no threat. Our translators record everything. Our maintenance workers see everything. Our cultural exchange students are everywhere. General Yan looked skeptical. Information is not the same as military power. Isn't it? Director Song countered. The Vazirith Confederacy maintains power through fear and secrets. What happens when those secrets are exposed? When their subject worlds learn how they've been exploited? When their allies discover their betrayals? The council talked for hours, then days. Arguments broke out. Plans were proposed and rejected. Security specialists outlined vulnerabilities. Economists calculated impacts. Ethical considerations were weighed. On the third day, they reached consensus. President Choi addressed the world's population in a brief broadcast. Citizens of Earth, you have seen the unjust execution of Dr. Kim Jae-woo. You have felt the same grief and anger that we in the Council feel. I ask for your trust. I ask for your patience. Most importantly, I ask for your silence. That same day, Earth sent a single message across all galactic channels: we acknowledge what has happened. We will respond accordingly. Then, Earth went quiet. No diplomatic communications. No trade negotiations. No cultural exchanges. Just silence. In their capital city, the Vazirith leadership gathered to discuss Earth's message. Is this all? High Commander Park laughed, displaying his sharp teeth. A vague threat followed by silence? Perhaps they are planning military action, suggested a security officer. Director Mock dismissed this with a wave of his clawed hand. Their military is insignificant. They have realized their position and are sulking like children. Should we be concerned? Asked a junior council member. About humans? High Commander Park laughed again. They are barely space capable. They have no alliances. No significant weapons. Nothing that could harm the Confederacy. Throughout the galaxy, other species watched the situation with growing unease. The Agarans increased security at their embassies. The Tellarite Federation suspended trade talks with both Earth and the Vazirith. The Proxima Collective offered meditation services that were ignored by both sides. No one understood why Earth remained silent. Some suspected fear. Others wondered if humans were truly as passive as they appeared. A few remembered old human stories about quiet predators waiting for the perfect moment to strike. In a secure facility beneath Geneva, President Choi met with a small team of specialists. How soon can we implement Phase 1? She asked. Director Song checked her datapad. 3 Earth ships are prepared. Teams are in position throughout Vazirith space. Information packets are compiled and ready for targeted release. And our other resources? In place, Director Song confirmed. The Vazirith have no idea what's coming. President Choi nodded, looking at the photograph of Dr. Kim on the wall. They think they understand us, she said quietly. They think our silence means weakness. They're about to learn that humanity's real strength has never been in our weapons. The Vazirith Orbital Defense Network detected 3 ships entering their territory. Alert signals flashed across monitoring stations throughout the system. Defense officers scrambled to battle stations, expecting Earth's pitiful attempt at revenge for their executed scientist. Only 3 vessels? Commander Bach laughed, studying the sensor readings. And they appear to be research-class ships, not even armed properly. His second-in-command zoomed in on the lead vessel. Shall we destroy them immediately, sir? Make an example? No, Bach replied, touching his communication panel. Inform High Command. This is too pathetic to waste our weapons. Let's see what these humans think they can accomplish. The Earth ships made no evasive maneuvers. They maintained steady course toward the Vazirith homeworld. Their transmissions were clear and formal. Earth diplomatic mission requests audience with the High Council to present formal response regarding the incident involving Dr. Kim Jae-woo. In his private chambers, High Commander Park received the news with amusement. He adjusted his ceremonial armor, specially designed to intimidate lesser species with its sharp edges and imposing height. They send diplomats after we executed their spy, he clicked to his advisors. Prepare the Grand Chamber. Let us hear their pleas and demands for mercy. Word spread quickly through the capital. Crowds gathered to watch public screens showing the human ships landing. Many expected to see the vessels destroyed as another lesson. Instead, they watched as a small delegation of 5 humans in simple blue uniforms emerged and was escorted to the council chambers. The Grand Chamber of the Vazirith High Council was designed to overwhelm visitors. Massive stone columns reached toward a ceiling painted with scenes of Vazirith military victories. The 12 council members sat on elevated platforms, forcing visitors to look up at them. The room's acoustics amplified Vazirith voices while dampening those of other species. Ambassador Kong Jin entered with perfect posture, flanked by 4 human assistants carrying unmarked cases. He stopped at the precise diplomatic distance and bowed exactly to protocol, not a degree too much or too little. "The human speaks," announced the chamber master, striking a ceremonial gong. "Esteemed High Council," Kong began, his voice calm and measured. "We come to present Earth's response to the execution of Dr. Kim Jaiwoo." High Commander Park leaned forward on his throne-like chair, mandibles clicking in what passed for a Vazirith smile. "Have you brought tribute? Perhaps the deeds to some of your colony worlds?" Several council members chittered in amusement. The human did not react to the mockery. "Of a sort," Kong replied evenly. He nodded to his assistants, who placed their cases on the floor and stepped back. Kong touched a small device on his wrist. The cases opened simultaneously, and hidden projectors activated. The chamber filled with hovering data screens, images, and recorded conversations, all with Vazirith text and authentication codes. "What is this?" demanded High Commander Park, rising to his feet. "This," said Ambassador Kong, "is everything." The first screen showed secret military plans for invading the Proxima Collective. The second displayed banking records of bribes paid to Agoran officials. Another showed recorded conversations between Vazirith commanders discussing the deliberate virus released on the developing world of Tertius 9, a planet whose population had been reduced by 60% in what was publicly called a natural pandemic. More screens appeared, weapons sales to both sides in the Rift War, slave trading operations hidden behind mining companies, experimental bioweapons tested on unwilling subjects, tax records showing massive theft from their own colonies. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Some officials attempted to flee. Others shouted for guards. High Commander Park stood frozen, all 4 of his eye clusters fixed on a recording of himself ordering the destruction of evidence. "Shut this down immediately." Director Mock screamed, but the human assistants had locked the projection systems. Guards who approached received powerful electric shocks from security fields. "These are lies," shouted Finance Minister Zhou. "Fabrications." Ambassador Kong raised a single finger, and one screen changed to show Minister Zhou accepting payment from 3 different species for the same mining rights. The recording included his voice print and DNA verification. "How did you obtain this?" demanded Park, his voice now lacking its usual authority. The human ambassador's expression remained neutral. "Humans are curious by nature," he said simply. "We've been listening and watching for decades. You never considered us worth noticing." He touched his wrist device again, and the projections concentrated into a single large display showing the Vazirith leadership in hundreds of compromising situations. "While you were celebrating your dominance over our weak species, we were learning everything about you," Kong continued. "Your security codes. Your military deployments. Your personal secrets. The names of your hidden accounts and your secret lovers. The locations of your families." "You threaten our families," hissed a council member, rising in rage. "No," Kong replied sharply. "Humans don't harm innocent family members. That is your way, not ours. I simply make the point that there is nothing we do not know about you." He stepped forward, breaking protocol by moving closer than allowed. No guards moved to stop him. "You killed 1 human. In response, we could destroy everything you've built. Not with weapons, but with truth." High Commander Park sank back into his chair. "What do you want?" "Earth's demands will be transmitted within the hour," Kung said, walking toward the exit. "I suggest you prepare your public statements carefully. The first data package has already been transmitted to every member world in your confederacy." As the humans left, the room remained silent. The mighty Vazirith leaders stared at each other, suddenly understanding that the galaxy had changed forever. On the mining world of Theris Prime, workers gathered around public screens with disbelief. For generations, the Thurasians had toiled in the asteroid mines, extracting precious minerals that the Vazirith claimed barely covered the cost of protection and infrastructure. Now they stared at financial records showing the true value of their labor, trillions of credits siphoned to private Vazirith accounts. "They've been stealing from us for 60 years, whispered Mine Chief Jorka, her tentacles trembling with rage. "Our children starve while they build pleasure palaces." Similar scenes played out across a dozen worlds as Earth strategically released information packages tailored to each Vazirith subject species. The agricultural planet Mentar received proof that their failed harvests had actually been diverted to Vazirith worlds. The Ovanar people learned that the plague that had killed millions of their children had been a Vazirith experiment gone wrong and deliberately covered up. In the central banking hub of the Vazirith system, Dr. Bei Siwan's algorithms worked silently through the network. A brilliant mathematician who had once been dismissed by Vazirith officials as a simple human calculator, Dr. Bei had spent years analyzing their financial systems. "The beauty of their economy is also its weakness," he explained to President Choi during the planning sessions. "Everything is connected. Change a few key numbers, and..." Now those changes cascaded through the system. Supply chains began failing when payment verifications suddenly showed discrepancies. Military shipments were rerouted based on updated orders. Credit lines to key Vazirith businesses froze unexpectedly. No funds were stolen. Nothing was destroyed. Numbers were simply adjusted. On the Vazirith homeworld, High Commander Park stormed into the emergency command center, knocking aside a junior officer who wasn't quick enough to move. "What do you mean we can't contact the 7th Fleet?" he shouted. Defense Minister Tull looked up from his console, his scales pale with stress. "All communication systems are failing. We're receiving reports of rebellions on Theras Prime, Mentar, and the Ovanar homeworld." "Crush them," Park ordered. "Send in the military." "We're trying," Tull replied, "but half our vessels report navigation system failures. They can't exit hyperspace coordinates correctly." Park smashed his fist into a display screen. "This is impossible. How can humans do this? They're primitives." Communications Director Lim approached cautiously. "Sir, we've traced some of the system infiltrations. Many appear to have originated 3 years ago during the Youth Cultural Exchange Program." "What exchange program?" Park demanded. "We invited gifted youngsters from various species to learn about our technology," Lim explained. "There was a human girl named Yuna." Park's memory flashed back to a small ceremony he had attended. A shy human teenager receiving an award for her remarkable understanding of Vazirith systems architecture. He had posed for a photo with her, mandibles spread in what humans would interpret as a smile, while secretly thinking how amusing it was that humans believed they could understand superior Vazirith technology. "Find her files. Find everything she touched," he ordered. But it was too late. Throughout Vazirith space, systems began displaying the same message on every screen: "Justice for Dr. Kim Jaiwoo." In desperation, the High Council ordered their main battle fleet to set course for Earth. If they couldn't stop the information war, they would force humanity into submission through raw military power. Admiral Ju stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Inevitable Victory, watching as 500 warships formed up around him. "Set course for the Sol system," he commanded. "Maximum speed." "Course set, Admiral," reported his navigation officer. "Entering hyperspace in 10 seconds." The massive fleet vanished into hyperspace, ready to emerge near Earth and unleash devastating firepower. But when they dropped back into normal space 6 hours later, confusion spread through the command ranks. "This isn't the Sol system," Admiral Ju said, staring at unfamiliar stars. "Where are we?" His navigation officer checked the instruments repeatedly. "According to our systems, this is Earth, sir. But the stellar configuration is wrong." Similar reports came in from across the fleet. Some ships had emerged in empty space. Others found themselves near hostile territories. None had reached Earth. Later, analysts would discover that navigation data had been subtly altered by code hidden years earlier by teenage prodigy Yunahi. The young programmer had inserted backdoors during her visit, modified to activate only if a large fleet set course for Earth. Back on the Vazirith homeworld, chaos reigned. 3 colony worlds had formally declared independence. Trade partners were demanding investigations. The banking system teetered on collapse. This cannot be happening, High Commander Park muttered, watching reports flood in. Not a single human ship has fired on us. Not one human soldier has set foot on our worlds. His aide entered the chamber, scales flat against his body in submission. Sir, we've received another message from Earth. The message was simple: this is only the beginning. We await your surrender. As Park stared at the words, he finally understood. The humans had never needed warships or weapons. They had simply needed the truth. The Grand Hall of Reconciliation gleamed under the light of three suns. Once the private palace of High Commander Park, it now hosted representatives from 200 worlds. 6 months of economic collapse, information warfare, and internal rebellion had brought the mighty Vazirith Confederacy to its knees, without a single shot fired by Earth. High Commander Park moved slowly to the center of the hall. His once impressive armor had been replaced with simple robes. His scales had dulled from their former shine. He looked smaller somehow, diminished by defeat. Before him stood President Choi Min of Earth, a small woman in a simple blue suit. Despite being half his height, she commanded the room with quiet dignity. I, High Commander Park, speaking for all Vazirith, he began in the formal tones of his species, acknowledge our crimes against Earth and against Dr. Kim Jaiwoo. We accept full responsibility for her unjust execution. We submit to Earth's judgment in this matter. The surrender terms appeared on screens throughout the hall. The Vazirith would pay reparations to Dr. Kim's family. They would release all information about their biological weapons program. Their military would be reduced by 70%. Most significantly, they would be the first signatory to the new Galactic Accountability Commission, an independent body with the power to investigate any species suspected of violating galactic law. As Park pressed his claw to the document, formally signing it, a quiet murmur ran through the crowd. The most powerful empire in the known galaxy had been humbled by a species many had considered insignificant. President Choi stepped forward to address the gathered representatives. Today marks a new beginning, she said, her voice soft yet carrying to every corner of the vast hall. 6 months ago, the Vazirith believed that killing one human would demonstrate their power. Instead, it revealed ours. She looked around at the diverse gathering: tentacled diplomats, exoskeleton-clad traders, crystalline entities floating in suspension tanks. All watched with rapt attention. Humanity does not seek domination, she continued. We seek justice and accountability. Dr. Kim gave her life in pursuit of truth. We honor her by creating a galaxy where truth matters more than force. The Kim Protocol, detailed in the documents being distributed, established new rules for diplomatic immunity and information transparency between species. No diplomat could be detained without evidence presented to neutral parties. No scientific information could be classified if it affected public health or safety. No species could hide behind secrecy when accused of violating sentient rights. After the ceremony, delegations from dozens of worlds approached the Earth representatives. Species that had never shown interest in humans now sought alliances. Trading partners competed for Earth's attention. Even former enemies requested technical assistance. In a quiet corner of the reception, Ambassador Kong Jin sipped a drink with his young aide, Han Juno. I never thought I'd see this day, Han said, watching as a Tellarian trade minister bowed deeply before Director Song. 2 years ago, the Tellarians wouldn't even acknowledge us at galactic functions. Kong smiled slightly. The galaxy has discovered something we've always known about ourselves. What's that, sir? That real power doesn't come from weapons or territory, Kong replied. It comes from values. 3 Vazirith diplomats passed nearby, giving the humans a wide berth. Their traditional arrogance had vanished, replaced by cautious respect tinged with fear. They never understood, Kong continued softly. Earth's strength was never in our warships or colony numbers, but in how we value each individual life and what we're willing to do when that value is ignored. Han looked thoughtful. Do you think they understand now? They understand that we defeated them, Kong said. But I'm not sure they truly comprehend why we fought the way we did. That evening, President Choi visited a newly established memorial garden. At its center stood a simple stone monument carved with Dr. Kim Jae-hwa's image and final words, "I regret nothing. The truth matters." Choi placed a small white flower at the base of the monument. "We did it, Dr. Kim," she whispered. "Your death changed everything." As she walked away, she passed two young Vaziriths studying the monument with obvious curiosity. "Is it true that humans will go to such lengths for just one person?" one asked. "Apparently," the other replied. "Their whole species mobilized because of her death." "Strange," said the first. "But also, admirable." Throughout the galaxy, power structures that had stood for millennia began to shift. Species that had relied on secrecy and force found themselves exposed to uncomfortable scrutiny. Others that had valued knowledge and cooperation discovered new allies in humans. Earth established its new embassy on the former Vazirith capital world, a clear symbol of the new order. Information flowed freely between worlds that had once hoarded their knowledge. Military vessels were repurposed for scientific exploration and emergency response. The age of brute force was ending. The era of accountability had begun. And it had all started because the galaxy's most powerful empire had failed to understand a simple truth, that to humans, every life matters. Even just one.